to an end. Today, having heard the erudite lectures, having heard, starting with Dr. Nishan Choksi, partner in all crime, but then contemporizing what we have been doing on Narmada and how people involvement is a must. And it is true that we started with a lecture of people's participation in water management, and he put it people in involvement in Narmada studies. Having done that, today we have amongst us one of the most respected, one of the most erudite, one of the most scholarly administrator, cultural administrator of India, and Dr. Kalyan Kumar Chakravarty. It is hard to believe that the CV he carries, being a IAS officer, that if even we can dream of. Having cleared its civil services, he was deputed to do a MPA in public administration in Harvard University. While doing that, in 4-year time, he not only completed his MPA in public administration, he did a MA in fine arts and completed his PhD too. So that's not something we even do today. And that Harvard University admission was given to him because by that time he already had publications on the subject on which we spent at least 10 years to write a book or start a book, I would rather say. He retired in the rank of Secretary Government of India. He has headed developmental, educational, cultural sectors in Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, national museums at Delhi and Bhopal, Lalit Kala Academy, Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts, and National University of Educational Planning and Administration in Delhi. He not only headed the Indira Gandhi Rashtriya Manav Sangrahalaya for long, but he brought it up as one of his child. If you go there today, the IGRMS Bhopal, some of you certainly would go one day or other day. The reserve, the collection, what he has done in that museum will require at least half a century to analyze and study and document. That's where it comes, the importance of administrative officer to head cultural centers. Having said that, I'm afraid that many other cultural centers which are headed by administrative officer were only in a sort of wait mood when we will get to another position. And he has taken museums out to communities to help nurse their habitat and knowledge systems, harvested their knowledge to improve their economy and reduce insurgency, and taken institutions out of preoccupation with events and exhibitions to engage them in building relations among communities, culture, discipline, and nations. That what it means that, as I said, he was most of the time he spent his time in Chhattisgarh. Many of his productive years were spent in Madhya Pradesh. He has contributed in giving a awareness to the people that there are a lot other than insurgency to be engaged with. And he always believed exhibitions, books are part, but as long as you can bring the communities into that, then there is a value to that. And if any of you want to see, the live examples are when you go to Chhattisgarh Museum, you go to, as I said, IGRMS, today you go to even Tripura State Museum, which is coming up, or rather it's in the process. You will see his commitment to that and how he has translated those institutions to sort of community institutions. And he is known for his cross-disciplinary research and as well as activism. He is internationally published in archaeology, rock art, art history, tribal issues, biocultural diversity, museum studies, public policy, philosophy of religion, and art. Currently, he is writing a volume on the historiography of Indian art and editing volumes on public policy for the Routledge publishing house. With these words, I welcome Dr. Kalyan Kumar Chakravarty for his valedictory address. Sir, stage is yours.
बंद कर सकते हो ना जरूरत है well as I dear students and faculty as I accepted Kanungo's invitation and his insistent suggestion that I must come, I was not really interested in a lecture or in a valedictory session, in a ceremonial session. I was only interested in seeing whether this institution could be taken out of its committed pigeonholes and out to community co-directed action. So that's why I came, and though one should not speak unkind words or even harsh words in a valedictory, I must say that we may not miss the wood for the trees. We may not miss, as I pointed out earlier, the qualitative indices for the quantitative indices. We may not miss micro-environmental self-determination initiatives for the sake of mega-developmentalism. Because it is mega-developmentalism, commitment to, rather obsession with technology, irrespective of ecology, which is bringing disaster and doom. So, when we analyze, we are talking about museums here. And I was telling Kanungo that as my theory is, as the museums keep growing, the country keeps dying. It is in direct proportion to the growth of the museums. It is the museumization of the country. Here also we are talking about creating museums around World Heritage Sites. In fact, that was one of my suggestions, because there is no other way one can deal with the system. And therefore, by suggesting World Heritage initiatives, one could possibly contribute to in situ regeneration along with ex situ display, to collection of objects along with recollection of traditions, to what has been just pointed out, to taking the museums out to the communities rather than bringing the communities to the museums, and that too urban communities, because the rural communities don't come. They are curating their own museums of biocultural diversity, which is also fast dying. I'm also talking about trying to protect slow track technologies against fast track technologies. So when we are talking about combining technology and ecology, we should think about technologies which are non-intrusive, non-invasive, and eco-friendly. That is not the case today, as we are seeing in the story of extinction. Mostly the museums show the story of extinction. Having killed that tribe or the community on the ground, we domesticate them into the museum for a society of spectacle, as the French situationists say, driven by a consciousness industry. So the society of spectacle is what we all feed with spectacular glitter and showmanship. So what I feel is that we are in the cockpit of a flying jet with a truck driver's license. We have talked about 5 extinctions. Now we're moving to the 6th extinction. The 5 extinctions have been steered by geological cataclysm, by biological upheaval. But this time, the 6th extinction is going to be steered not by geology, but by the human agency itself. So it is the first time that it will be an anthropomorphic agency which will bring about extinction. So when we are talking about Narmada, I am also talking about 2 distinct phenomena, amnesia and aphasia. Amnesia is loss of, rather oblivion of languages, and aphasia is loss of speech. So both these phenomena are pervasive. In fact, so far as languages are concerned, the language is not only what is written, language is also what is spoken, what is lived, what is practiced. It is the language of subsistence, human and natural resource management, embedded irrevocably into different eco-climatic niches. It is this language diversity which is dying every day. So if you are talking to the Narmada Valley Initiative, we should address not only quantitative models or data generated by mega developmental agencies, but also our own cultural impact assessment on the ground. in collaboration with the communities. Therefore, we are aiming at, we are talking a lot about sustainability. Now we know there are 17 SDG goals, out of which 2 goals are life above waters and life below waters. Both the healthy well-being of the mountains and the healthy well-being of the oceans. So when you are talking about Narmada or Ganga for that matter, we are talking about a large interaction sphere in which there is a bio-geo-chemical cycling and recycling of elements. Now, one is not talking about a romantic commitment to all the taboos and prescriptions of a tribal person. According to me, we were all tribal once. We were all part of one continent of ideas once upon a time. But we have been banished forever from that continent. So the colonial categories have come in, included, excluded, scheduled, non-scheduled, tribal, non-tribal. These disjunctive categories are colonial inventions. So, I mean, when John Donne, for instance, talks about this, we human beings are not islands, but part of the main. Even the death of a koala in Australian forests diminishes me. Even a life lost in the earthquake in Indonesia or Nepal diminishes me. Therefore, do not call to find out for whom the bell tolls. The bell tolls for thee. It is you that we are addressing. And to the extent you are overtaken by the hubris of knowledge, to that extent you will be overtaken by the nemesis of destruction. And therefore, Matthew Arnold used to say, we human beings are not islands. We are part of the main. Do not call to find out for whom the bell tolls. The bell tolls for thee. So, when you come to a seminar like this, in which we are analyzing the data generated by mega developments in delta structures, which are not really neutral for field interventions in the abstract, diverse from any field knowledge or assessment, we may land ourselves in serious trouble. If we are talking about sustainability, a sustainability consists in creating a sustainable materials economy, not using most materials, but making the most of existing materials. Therefore, without any romantic hang-up about the tribal, this is what the tribal has been trying to do. But here we are creating cognitive divides. We are talking about science of tradition or and tradition or with tradition, whatever. Really, there is no cognitive divide. In this age and time, in the age of isomorphism of verbal and genetic codes, interchangeability of matter and energy in particle physics, in the interconnectedness of the entire environment with the butterfly effect, which is discussed, we are talking about an indivisible environmental envelope which we are trying to deal with. So what we are doing here will definitely have an impact on this entire area. So we are talking about a biogeochemical cycling and recycling to create a synergistic balance of elements, a kind of a homeostatic balance. So one would not say that the so-called tribal has deliberately aimed for it. I mean, because fortunately or unfortunately, he has not undergone this education from which we are trying to speak. So, a very odd thing here that Swami Vivekananda, if one quotes him in this context, because we are also talking about reduction of sacred and ecological categories to economic and production categories. So when Swamiji, more than 150 years ago, already noticing this, he wrote a letter to Sister Nivedita that we human beings are like goats being driven to the slaughterhouse, nibbling a bit of grass hastily along the way, oblivious of the fate which awaits it at the end. Now this may sound a kind of an unholy warning, but as I said, the sixth extinction is at the door, and that extinction is already visible in the loss of biocultural diversity, names, place names, different categories of consanguinity, affinity, bondage, which were treasured by communities. I won't say only tribal communities. Tribal is a word, code word for ecologically based groups. So the question is, when at this center, why I respond to this invitation? Because it is unusual, because it's now fashionable to look at knowledge systems. Because in the name of knowledge systems, one gets money for the institution. But knowledge systems are irrevocably micro-environmental. They are not mega-developmental. So one has to look at the niche diversification in terms of local strategies for understanding the data which we are dishing out with such alacrity. And in this matter, I feel that we are like, as I said, in the position of a pilot in the cockpit of a flying jet with a truck driver's license. However sophisticated the data may look, ultimately, without being fleshed out on the ground, with a deliberate understanding of the unity in the difference, we shall really go far astray. Therefore, it's hardly my job to look at to cost-benefit analysis, but I feel that in this area, because of the urgent developmental pressures, the urgent pressures of drought in Kutch, Saurashtra, the advancing desertification from Rajasthan, the eutrophication of the water bodies, the salination, the atmospheric pollution due to industrial waste, silage, a breakneck speed of urbanization with a tall, cold-surfaced, pencil-like structures going up every day, completely spoiling the landscape and the mindscape, mind you, both are together. It is time that we looked at this cost-benefit analysis in different areas in a co-directed venture with communities. A few markers, because I cannot cover everything, nor would I like to. It would be inflicting too much on this innocent audience. But it is important here to point out, first of all, to the erosion of the forests, the retreat of the CPR, the common property resources, which were curated locally by the communities. And in this engulfing tide of globalization, desacralization, and homogenization, it is time that you look at these landscapes and mindscapes which have been curated and kept alive by the local communities, tribal or non-tribal, whether they are Basavas, Bhils, Rathwas. We have a Chara friend here who is a great filmmaker, who have been notified as criminal and denotified as non-criminal. We have celebrated a global assembly about 116 such denotified and nomadic tribes and requested them to come out of this mental pigeonhole of feeling tortured and banished and harassed and get into the realm of articulating their creative instincts. So I remember at IGNC, one of the tribal persons from that group who was a sapera, he was saying that thanks to this act banning animal cruelty, we have lost our profession. Now, we used to live and love this snake. Now, I have seen snakes hung around the neck of a child, and at the same time, in Jashpur, they were extracting poison for making medicine. And that snake park still exists in Jashpur, in Raigad district. So that is just a kind of an example. Now, when we are talking about knowledge system, there is a tendency to domesticate all local knowledge systems into a global envelope, instead of recognizing their local relevance pertinent to the local waters, the local forests, the local climatic envelope. So it is important that if this institution thinks of collaborating with the civil society, I know that the civil society has been articulating itself in different ways. But what happens is when something has come to stay because of the people who want to, who are in drought-stricken areas or who want to deal with their water shortage, then one has to stop being absolutist also in terms of certain preconceived convictions. It is possible for civil society organizations to collaborate with the government agencies in modifying their pace and regulating their pace. And that is what this institution can do. I know that there are now administrative mechanisms in place, and this institution is already in collaboration with Kanpur and Indore. And it is looking at these strategies in a larger background. But at the same time, it should also look at some of the objections which have come up, like, for instance, exclusion in the areas affected by the Narmada river dam projects, Sardar Sarovar, Narmada Valley. The British Land Acquisition Act has been used to include only the married children, only the people who are recorded in the revenue records. Those who do not appear in the records, they do not exist. Therefore, it is important to ensure not only that the unmarried children, but also the people who are cultivating the common property resource grounds without a clear title, they also get included. If one keeps fighting without interacting, that may not happen. And in the same way, it is very important that in forestry, we move from the colonial forestry practices given by Mr. Brandeis, who brought scientific forestry, timber forestry, single-tier forestry to this country through the Dehradun institution. And it must be supplemented by non-timber forestry, multi-story forestry, in place of single-story forestry. The tuber, the legume, not only the megafauna, but also the microfauna, they should all find place in the mapping and in the preservation campaign. Because only then the forest will retain its value as a habitat where the community managed afforestation practices and nala bunding, other practices are still in vogue and which are being used in the joint forest management mechanism, beginning with Arabari in West Bengal and other places, very effectively. And having managed forestry for years, I have also found it possible to use the Tendupatta camps first to impart education on ground, because the child who assists the family cannot travel for education, so they has to be taken there. So that kind of in situ education has also been initiated. So when we are talking about forestry, we are also talking about a knowledge system which is based on forestry, on assisted natural regeneration rather than plantation practices. It's an entirely different kettle of fish which is being practiced by the communities. So, and then having looked at that, we also move on to the other parameter, which is generally ignored, because we are always talking about intellectual property right. There is the work has to be done on intellectual property right, and that intellectual property right today is given by the GATT TRIPS regime. So it is a tyranny which requires you to fix your knowledge electronically or otherwise, and if it is unfixed, then it is not recognized. So therefore, it is very important that the knowledge, the community knowledge, is fixed, and now that is available in too many languages which are oral. So the oral languages are not scripted. And therefore, it will be important to work with the communities in revitalizing the languages and creating biocultural diversity registers in local terms of classification and nomenclatures. So unless that is done, a biodiversity register using Latin taxonomy will fall flat on the ground. So it is important that we do this. Then we have been talking about cosmology, Barahamihira, Mahabharata, Vedas, you see different Puranas. So it is all there. But the cosmology has to be connected with the local cosmology, its own sense of the sacred, its own sense of the landscape. And then the cosmology also has to be connected with the scientific parameters like geology, biology, zoology, paleontology. All these terms have been used. Different kinds of presentations have been made. Now, those presentations will make no sense to the communities at large unless they are translated into local terms of equity and beneficence. So that also can be done by this institution if it is to ensure an impact on the ground. So once this is done, it will be possible to see that all these sites along the Narmada, through the silted valley or through the rift valley, with different names like Bandar Kudni, Putra Kud, then Bhiraghat rocks, and the basaltic ledges, the Omkareshwar island, which is formed like an Om, the coconut traveling up and down as one chants Kaveri or Narmada. All these elements will converge to make geology a kind of a living experience for World Heritage landscapes. Now, there are relict, associated, and other landscapes with zoological biota, then anthropological groups which are almost oceos, still living, and there are vanishing floral, faunal diversity, which so there is a case not for one, but for several World Heritage sites and parks all along Narmada. So, because one site will not answer the World Heritage prescription of a unique human creativity, act of human creativity, a unique landscape. Narmada is not one unique landscape. It is many unique landscapes. So one has to recognize that for World Heritage, and that can be done through an interdisciplinary expedition. We carried that out at the IGRMS, and the different surveys got together to do it. Now, this survey and documentation, you remember that all these surveys emerged out of the Asiatic Society through the Indian Museum, Kolkata. And they, the British researchers, they documented the knowledge for actual use for their colonizing purposes. So they used it very effectively and very prominently. But that knowledge, which was domesticated, which was recorded by them, is no longer is not to be, one doesn't have to go on repeating the documentation, because that knowledge still remains to be used. The microfauna, the microbiota, the taxonomy of the soils. There are hundreds of reports which contain those surveys and documents. So you keep on surveying, documenting without any outcome. So it is better to use survey for revitalization rather than mere documentation, because I find there is this rage for documentation without any ultimate objective. It is documentation for the sake of documentation. In the same way, there is all this documentation of these temples and architecture and sculptures. I have seen some of these reports. The reports are just descriptive. They just keep on describing that this is Vedibandha, this is this is that. That's all. There is nothing beyond that. There is no understanding that the temples are responding to the specific geological or zoological, floral and faunal features of the landscape, and that they are transforming what is considered profane into a sacred kind of a scenario. So it has to be understood that when we engage in dating exercises, like for instance for rock art, that's a hot rage for dating. Now, all these dating exercises, they require, whether it is carbon dating or not, most of our rock shelters are open carbon systems. And we have no calibration curve for this area, like we have for Europe for the different glacial phases. Therefore, these dating exercises also prove abortive without substantial understanding that the dating, if it is dependent on certain facilities of, like you have a advanced mass spectrometry, you see, laboratory. Now, how many sites will you record? I mean, a minute sample will require a lot of work, a lot of expenditure, and if you have to do it for the entire area, it will take ages. Therefore, it is important that we move from paleoanthropology, paleozoology, paleogeology, paleolinguistics to immediate co-directed action for preservation and revitalization. And that's why I have suggested the World Heritage Landscapes. And in the Act for Conservation, you will not only be able to document, but also able to revitalize not only the cosmology, not only the geology, but also the ecology. On all these structural setups which are being created, I mean, and all these electronic spin resonance and other dating exercises, or these surveys. I mean, in this area, you have to use a ground penetrating radar survey, and technology is useful there, and LIDAR survey, I mean, for instance, and Landsat imagery, because it can recognize from the top, you see different kinds of cuestas, battes, mesas, which are outstanding rock formations known geologically, which shelter rock art. So the recognition will then be substantiated by field initiative, like the Maoris have done. They have done the Landsat survey. And then they have substantiated it by ground truthing and for local action, for revitalization. What they call themselves Koitaki, the curators of the Taonga, their own treasures. So it is that kind of action for technology oriented to ecological conservation that we need. I won't go into the analysis of the individual presentations, but I should point out that, for instance, when you're talking about South Asia and Southeast Asia, and we are talking about Northeast or Southeast Asia, there are these phenomena like the Huen Binian lithic assemblages or the Dongson pottery, which is also found in Indonesia. In the same way, the Bay of Bengal interaction sphere, also is controlled by several agreements like BIMSTEC, SARC, etc., which can be effectively harvested for collaborative action, especially for going to some of the remote regions and for ensuring environmental and demographic security. So I think the day is far advanced, and I won't go into the technicalities of the assemblages of death or assemblages of life, etc., because those are being given by experts who know what they're talking about, and it is important to harvest what has been said here for local action. For instance, when you are talking about agriculture, I have found as a member of the governing board of the Bharat Rural Livelihood Federation that water conservation and use is being ensured in Chhattisgarh by the women through trellis method. And using bamboo, props, etc. In the same way, they use the local language. For instance, Jibida Hasa is the term used by the women in Jharkhand for vermicomposting, bringing soil, compost, etc., waste together, silage together. In the same way, there is Narwa, Ghadwa, Guroa, Bari, the experiment which is being practiced by the women in Chhattisgarh for their farmyard manure. Then Mr. Ota also, what he spoke about, I see this as an evidence of the second urbanization, and all these evidence of post holes and houses. It is this phenomena of urbanization in the Malabar region and in this region also, which should be carefully analyzed for comparison with the local village, whether you call it villagization or urbanization. It's important to derive lessons from them, because it is still visible that they have used eco-friendly materials which are irretrievably local for very practical action. And whether we talk about Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, etc. Now, in some of my excavations, like in Chhattisgarh, found a Rudra Shiva image in which you see Tripathaga Ganga is shown, Ladini, Plavini, etc., Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, on the same door jamb. And the Rudra Shiva image shows an ascent and descent of waters. It is from the ascent from the Muladhara to the Sahasrara through the spinal cord, and from the fire of Retas is fructified and transformed into tapas, by tapas. So, so all these phenomena are available all over the country in different excavations, etc. It is important to give meaning to those strata of discoveries and to bring meaning back into shapes. I can only congratulate the team here for daring to undertake such a venture. But it is important to understand that it is not enough to confine oneself to data generated by extraneous agencies, however competent they may be in that realm. But it is important to go to the ground and undertake cultural and environmentally relevant action. It is only then that we can try to protect the humanity, not the earth, because the earth will continue. Humanity will vanish from the face of the earth, and it is not a kind of a dire warning. It is a clear and present possibility. So if that is to be avoided, and if the IIT, this triple-headed agency, and the Government of India Jal Shakti department get together, a lot can be done in inciting civil society initiatives and practical transformative action. Thank you very much.
All of you will agree with me that without Dr. Kalyan Kumar Chakravarty, this theme and the conference which we hold would have been incomplete. So I am happy that he accepted our invitation, and it is not my invitation, but it is because the logo we carry is a IIT Gandhinagar and the effort which put by Center Narmada. And having said that, I have a small declaration to make that other than what we are doing academically, we have, as we discussed yesterday, we have passed a small resolution to request Government of India and the related agencies for the followings. I just read the resolution which we have passed, that IIT Gandhinagar, C. Narmada organized a conference on traditions of science, Narmada and water management on 7th and 8th April 2025 at IIT Gandhinagar, and we have given the link to the conference webpage. Some of the best minds of India, in that we have given the link to the academic program, who have contributed to understanding of Narmada, were resource person, and all the resource persons have signed this resolution in the backdrop of what have been the saying for last year or so, that India thinks of not only Vikas goes with Virasat. And that's what we say, progress and the heritage. In that, the heritage value of rivers has become now multifaceted. After 2 days of brainstorming session, then I give the link of the abstract book. We passed the following resolutions. 1, developing a national faunal fossil park in Narmadapuram, which was proposed by Professor Vijay Sathe, and developing Narmada as a living entity, proposed by Dr. S.B. Ota, and all of us also agreed to the proposal after hearing Dr. Ravi Upadhyay and others that taking steps to include Narmada Parikrama as a UNESCO World Heritage Intangible. And then we also write to the Government of India that on their consent, on their initiative, on their reply, we will be happy to provide the rationale and make a presentation for their consideration, because it would require a follow-up and DPR. Along with this, of course, that resolution has been signed by one and each of our resource person, and this will certainly require a covering letter, which we will certainly persuade our of authorities to give a covering letter taking the suggestion from Dr. Kalyan Kumar Chakravarty. Looking at the engagement, how engrossed, how engaged he was with this conference, I certainly feel we do not put that much effort even in our young age, and I certainly was really worried to ask him his suggestion because he was so much engrossed in that. Along with this, I will fail if I do not thank Professor Pranab Mahapatra, who was the coordinator, who gave us a very free, and that he felt, see, Narmada is not only, if you say Central Narmada, Center for Narmada, it's not only about hydrology, technology. If we cannot give a human value to that, then it has no meaning. In that way, this conference came up, and the idea for this conference was not only as a conference, but to make a capacity building. The idea was that we wanted some of our scholars, one of the research scholars at least, to go to the entire parikrama, Narmada parikrama, with anthropology and cultural perspective. Then we discussed with the perspective student, and age of now it's perspective student, and we know the student is theoretically very sound. Of course, the student is amongst us age of now. And then we thought that if he has to spend 3 years of time, then we haven't done enough. For what would you give him a target? That what he should collect. While going for anthropological data collection, he also has to see how Dr. Ravi Upadhyay saw the natural heritage, how Professor Vijay Sate saw the fossil heritage, how Dr. S.B. Otta saw the chalcolithic heritage, and overall how Dr. K.K. Chakravarty brought that in nothing is just a documentation, but association with the human, association with the culture, association with the entity of what this river is the important. So this is an effort for making a capacity building, providing the prospective student the paraphernalia, academic paraphernalia, that what he should look for in 3.5 years. And India has come to a stage where we want to create a capacity building, and we can invest that much of energy. India has come to that stage. We need to acknowledge the fact. And the positive attitude of our HSS faculty made all the difference. In today, when we spoke, Deepak Singhania, 15 minutes cut, he just smiled and said, okay, I'm economist, 15 minutes. And that made the difference for this conference. And that was one. And we also take this opportunity to remember Professor Gyani Lal Badam, if I am right, it's G.L. Badam. And G.L. Badam was one who started working on the fossil on the Narmada way back, and we were fortunate few who were taught by him. When he used to teach the class, he used to touch the nerve. There was not a second that we can put the eyelid down. That was his way of teaching, and he is the one who indeed introduced us to the work of Dr. Kalyan Kumar Chakravarty. If we know Dr. Kalyan Kumar Chakravarty in the as a research person, as a scholar on river culture, and other than in all other aspects we talked of, because it was Dr. G.L. Badam who brought his aura to this academic community. Today we do miss him, but he has made us to take this subject ahead. And then the last but not least is we aim to make a book out of this conference, release the book in the forthcoming conference on the Narmada. It will be a follow-up conference in a village, not in IIT Gandhinagar. And we certainly, with the permission of Professor Pranab Mahapatra and Sri Narmada, and we aim to publish it, release it in this same financial year, where we will again look forward to listening to you, along with few others which we missed this time. And trust me that there will be no condition for number of photographs or the publisher you are thinking of. We would go for a well-referred publishing house who would also will have an online version and who would not keep a condition for any color photograph or any diagram as per se. Thank you.